Hi, it's Rick. Today I'm going to be scaling up a drawing that I've made using the grid method. Now, a lot of you may have heard of this or have vague memories of using it in elementary school. But it's a very good method of transferring a drawing from one place to another, especially if you want to enlarge it. And I use it all the time to enlarge sketches and drawings that I've made to a size that would be just too big to go through the printer. It's easy to do, and here's how you do it. So here's my sketch. I've gone over it in black pencil to make it easier for you to see. So the first thing I need to do is take some measurements. Now this horse is just under 7 inches across, so I'll start there. I know that I want my finished drawing to be 13 to 14 inches. So if I take this 7 inches, divide it into half-inch squares, and then make the larger grid 1-inch squares, that'll give me 14 inches across. The horse is a little smaller than that, so it'll be 13 and change, which is perfect. It's just what I'm looking for. If you want an exact size, you can certainly pull out a calculator and figure these things out. This is close enough for me. I'll start by drawing a grid of half-inch squares across the horse. So there's our grid. This is 14 half-inch squares across and 9 squares down. So now we need to take a larger paper, and this paper is approximately 12 by 18. It's a newsprint. I buy this stuff at the dollar store. I need 14 squares across, and those are going to be 1-inch squares. Get those marked out. So here's our grid, and the important thing is to have the same amount of squares that you have on the drawing that you want to copy. 14 across, 9 down. So it doesn't really matter what size these are. If you wanted to make it bigger, you could make these 1.5-inch squares, you could make them 2-inch squares. Or conversely, if you had something large and you wanted to make it smaller, you could do the same thing. As long as you have the same amount of squares, and then you just start drawing in, square for square, what's in each of the squares. Now there are some tricks that you can use to make this a little easier, especially if you're working on a more complicated sketch than this. You can number and letter the rows and columns. So, and you could do the same thing here. Now if you were working on, say, C5, you could follow this down. You'd know that that was here. There was nothing there, so maybe that was a bad example. C7. You could follow that down, C7, and that would be the same in both of them. That would be this. So you could work on this independently of the rest of them if you wanted to, and always know that you were in the right square. Another thing that you can do, like I said, usually on a more complicated sketch, is you can take a piece of paper and cut it to the same, cut a hole in it that is the same as the squares on your grid on the piece that you're working from, and then you can go to that and you only have to deal with these lines. All of this won't be in your vision, won't be distracting you. You can just work what's in that particular square, and that helps sometimes. But this isn't that complicated, and we shouldn't need it for this. So now I just have to copy this square by square onto the grid. So there it is. Now from here I can go over it and refine it if I want to, but I've basically kept all the proportions of the original and made a pretty fair duplicate of it in the size that I wanted. But I hope that I've demonstrated that there are a lot of uses for using this system for scaling things up or down, especially if they're larger than will fit on your printer. So that's how you use a grid to scale up a drawing. Now the grid mark being on the drawing doesn't bother me because I'm going to be tracing this out onto a piece of poster board and cutting it out so I can make several copies of the same thing. If it does bother you, one method that you could use to make sure that the grid isn't on the drawing is to draw a grid on a light table and then lay the paper over that, tape it down so it doesn't move. If you don't have a light table, you should watch my next video, because that's going to be about building a light table. So I hope this helps you out in future projects. If you like my videos, please subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.